Every single day, over 11,000 Americans turn 65. That's more than 4 million people a year. Of course, it's happening globally. In Australia, around 156,000 people retire annually. But what nobody's talking about are these major losses. As a retirement life coach over the past decade, I have found that there is a honeymoon period and it typically ends within a year, often sooner. To help you avoid what I call a retirement rut, which a lot of people get stuck in this video, I'm going to share 5 big invisible losses that happen the moment you retire that have nothing to do with money. And more importantly, the exact process to turn those losses into your biggest growth opportunity. In case you're new, I am Meyer, the founder of Second Wind Movement and a life coach for older adults who are striving to turn their retirement years into their best years full of purpose and meaning. And a big part of that is addressing this same pattern that I see a lot among especially high achieving professionals who spent 30, 40 plus years building amazing careers and accomplishments and families, and they suddenly feel lost when they cross that finish line. Not because they don't plan financially, but because nobody prepared them for these 5 invisible losses that are about to happen. Finances are just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more colorful, meaningful, yet invisible things to address. So let's put them into 5 core areas of losses and dive right into what you're losing beneath the surface. Number 1, you lose your daily routine. The first thing is very tangible and it impacts your environment and definitely so much of your subconscious brain and your daily habits. When you worked full-time, Monday morning meant getting up early, putting on your professional attire, grabbing breakfast, sitting at the desk, clearing those emails, and maybe even the night before you had that Sunday blues. But this physical routine was with you for decades, right? Like there's a motor on autopilot and it's structured your entire life. So when you retire, your routine vanishes and suddenly there's a wide open space. Do you want to replace the routine or are you happy you lost it? For most people, it's aspects of both. And it is very worth being intentional about how you replace that daily structure because so much of your sense of self is tied to that daily structure. Research shows that transitioning to retirement can lead to decision paralysis. You have so many things you're thinking about doing, but the days just fly by without a solid plan. Doc Lawrence, one of my clients, struggled with this exact thing. He had the best intentions and established a morning routine from his career, but leaving a meaningful legacy wasn't panning out the way that he intended without the right structure. But clarity changes everything. Once he applied a clear intention and then the micro-stepping process from Rewire My Retirement, he fully committed to what he calls a new resolution practice. And not only did his goals become crystal clear, but he took immediate action and incrementally achieved his ideal lifestyle in just a few short months. Which, coming from a doctor role with so much energy invested in his career, was very ambitious. The outlook for his retirement accomplishments is pretty big in the form of a nonprofit with like a moonshot team. But it doesn't matter if one big passionate project or many peaceful routines throughout your day is occupying your new structure. That routine that you build in your retirement matters just as much as the one you had in your career. It's got to be intentional and driven by your newfound clarity. So that's the obvious tangible loss. And one that's less tangible is number 2, you lose your professional identity. This is what most people talk about when transitioning into retirement. You lose your career identity, which makes sense because for decades when someone asked you, what do? We all get accustomed to answering the job title. Your professional identity was a massive part of how you saw yourself and how others saw you. And then you retire and suddenly that's gone. And it can feel like losing a part of yourself. And here's the reframe that I give my clients. Retirement doesn't erase your professional identity, it diversifies it. And you can and get to bring the best pieces forward. In fact, research shows that retirement doesn't limit self-description, quite the opposite. Retirees rate more domains as important for self-description than non-retirees, which basically means with retirement comes a greater diversity in your identity. You're not just retired, that's merely your employment status. Instead, you're expanding your self-identity post-retirement. So Steve, one of my clients who was an executive director, he actually retired twice because the first time he didn't have clarity on this identity piece. He went back to work and retired again. He was that attached to the executive director title and role. And so that second time is when he worked through the Rewire My Retirement program, and he says he failed at retirement the first time, but rewiring is when everything clicked the second time. So he learned to embrace his expanding identity beyond his executive title and awakened himself to his presence and deeper sense of self. So he took that systematic journey inward for clarity first before making any rash plans. So today he's thriving because he understands that his professional accomplishments are just one part of who he is, and that his growth journey is full of possibilities and opportunities. It's about knowing your authentic self, your worth, and your relevance from the inside out. Which brings us to number 3, you lose validation and relevance. This ties directly into what people are calling relevance deprivation syndrome, RDS. There are people who don't want to retire because they think on the other side they won't be relevant anymore, like they'll feel useless. When your boss comes up to you, pats you on the back and says, job well done, or when you deliver at the top of your game to your audience through your work, accolades are a big deal. It's a wonderful feeling. You're not necessarily going to get that external validation in retirement. You've got to get it from the inside by gaining clarity on what you really want and who you truly are becoming. This can be very awkward for people, especially high achievers with big job titles, simply because they haven't had the chance to practice going inward for those answers and doing what I'm talking about with gaining clarity. In our culture, we don't teach retirees to get self-validation and relevance before retiring. In our society, we talk about financial planning, but this is a loss during the transition. You lose accolades, validation, and relevance. And the paradox is there's both the hope and the fear built into that same issue. You might hope for freedom and flexibility and then fear irrelevance at the same time. And that fear is so powerful that it keeps high achievers stuck in jobs that they're ready to leave simply because they can't imagine who they'll be without that external validation. But here is what I have learned after a decade of coaching. If you need validation, most high achievers do. There are powerful ways to get it from the right places. This is at the heart of what I do with my clients. You gain deeper clarity on your deeper values. You connect with your intrinsic motivators versus your extrinsic motivators, and you get to know your authentic self at a deeper level. And once you do that in a committed, consistent way, then that clarity informs your day-to-day life, which is super fulfilling, robust, and exciting and energizing. That's when people don't just blindly sign up for traditional volunteer gigs when they say they want to help others, for example. Instead, they share their unique gifts with an audience that they care about in a completely novel, creative, and innovative way. I see this time and time again, and it's so exciting. When you are aligned from the inside out, you become very relevant, and it's also very invigorating and energizing. Number 4 is you lose your sense of purpose. So this goes hand in hand with validation and relevance. After decades of career and family responsibilities, you know exactly why you get up every morning. Your career and your family role serves its purpose. And suddenly in retirement, that shifts. And over the past decade, as a retirement life coach, I have found that this is the number one challenge that people face. A purposeless life is a big source of anxiety, especially if you're used to a big career, go, with lots of accolades and responsibilities and achievements. I just went into this because it closely ties to relevance and identity, losses number 2 and number 3, but this alignment is in terms of helping others. So my favorite distinction between purpose and passion is that passion is for you and purpose is for others. And I say it's amazing if you can gift to both you and others. Finding clarity on your new purpose in retirement is not just a luxury, it's the foundation. The way that you share your unique gifts and the format that takes on is going to be vastly different and eclectic for every person. It's not, again, about traditional volunteering or doing what other retirees are doing. You're not a stereotype. I'm not a stereotype. It's about uncovering what lights you up from the inside out. And frankly, it doesn't matter if you're pre-retired, post-retired, semi-retired. Let's just continue this movement of literally growing and evolving into what's meant to be your unique sense of purpose. The idea that it's one pigeonholed purpose, role, or identity is outdated. That's our conditioned programming from society. And that's where neuroplasticity comes in. When you tap into your brain's ability to rewire itself in a very intentional way, you create new ways of thinking, doing, and being that are very aligned with your authentic self and therefore your purpose. So my solution for you is to rewire your brain intentionally. Because here's the truth. These 4 losses, your routine, your validation and relevance, your identity, and your sense of purpose, they're all happening and can lead to a 5th huge loss, which is time. But you're right here, right now, being intentional about learning how to better yourself rather than losing time in the past, thinking things were great and are never going to be as productive or exciting or accomplished, or losing time in the future thinking like, how am I going to make the most of it? Backward depression, forward anxiety. Remember that this is all a brain loop. You have the power to rewire and make the most of your time. It doesn't matter what stage or age or employment status. You're wired for growth and you're built for greater and greater heights. Your best days are not behind you. You just need a proven system for accessing the conscious parts of your brain to unlock all those possibilities and your clarity. So my job is simply to help you excavate them through a very specific process. If you want comprehensive help creating your ideal retirement, just head over to our free workshop and please watch how to turn your successful career into a successful retirement. Thank you so much for watching. I am Meyer, your passionate retirement life coach, and I will see you in the next video.